We made $1 million on Instagram, Ken. Just Instagram. We were $150K in debt. We were financially in the worst position possible because we had invested all our money. And it was really through Gary Vee's content of him giving like a loving bitch slap is what I needed. Forget what others think or fuck what others think.
No hustle worship here, we're a different breed. Action is what we got if action is what you need. Content capitalist, we're breaking the mold. Cause the old ways fading, new stories to be told. So content capitalist, get to the prize.
This is the Content Capitalist Podcast, and my name is Ken Okazaki. There are as many ways to make money with content as there are people doing it. So listen in as my clients, past, present, and future, unpack how they crack the code to making $1 million a year or more while capitalizing on their content. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Content Capitalist Podcast, where I have conversations with people who are doing at least $1 million in their business, many times a lot more. Today, my guest is special because here's the thing. Like, you know how they say 3 times the charm? We've been trying to do this over and over. There was situations where I got sick, had to reschedule for various reasons. Finally, we're back on. Her name is Erika Cramer. And this book, if you haven't gotten it yet, there's a link down below. If you're on YouTube, check it out. If you're on podcast, we're going to put that in the show notes. We're going to talk a bit about what's inside of here. But most importantly, I want to introduce you to Erika Cramer. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Ken. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And I want to give our podcast listeners just a point of reference here, because if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see all the glory that is in front of you. That is Erika Cramer. If you're listening, I want to describe this to you, okay? She's got a hot pink hat. She's got hot pink all over. She's got a gorgeous smile. And I think that if I were walking down the street and I saw Erika coming from the other end, like there would be all eyes on her wherever she goes. She's the kind of person who attracts attention and builds confidence just by being there. So
Thank you.
Go check out the YouTube channel if you want to have a look at what she actually looks like, which you should, because it's amazing. And I just wanted everybody to understand what kind of person we're talking to here. So Erika, welcome. And give us just a really quick story on like, how did you come up with this ensemble, like this fashion sense, this boss look that you've got?
Well, the Queen of Confidence is my alter ego. She's kind of like, I guess, my Sasha Fierce for Beyonce, or what is his name? Clark Kent, Superman. So I think that the Queen of Confidence is someone who I aspire to become. And I think I want all women to step into, to believing that you are a queen and that you have that inner confidence. And so these days, I think I've become my alter ego. She's kind of like who I walk around as most of the time, which is really awesome. And yeah, it was really a life of hardship, pain, trauma, horrible upbringing, and a lot of loss that brought me to Australia and brought me into doing the work. I was a hairdresser and then I was a fashion stylist. So I always worked in confidence. It was just the external confidence. And it's really important, Ken. External confidence does support us. But if we focus only on that, on our likes and our views and our metrics of vanity, then we're not internally lit up and we don't have that inner confidence, which is what sustains us. So during my journey of development, I was like, I really want to do the inner work. And then I became a coach. And that was, we'll get into that story, I'm sure, but I kind of was like, I want to do this. And so I stopped doing the external confidence, started working on the internal, and it's been the most incredible journey so far.
Amazing. Now, I was just looking over your bio. If you Google her name, you're going to see that she's got like a special Google category for herself as an author, speaker, and everything. And like from the outside, I would have assumed like you were just born this way, but I know from having, read your book and followed you for some time that there's a bit of a backstory. Now, you talked a bit about hairdresser, fashion designer, and things like that. Let's go back to before it even crossed your mind to go into business for yourself. Like, what kind of situation were you in when you first started like working for money?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Someone asked me the other day, what was my first hustle? And I'm sure I was like 12 years old. And in America, because I'm from Boston, I was making these like beaded flag necklaces. It was very like all the kids in the hood were wearing these necklaces. And it was like my first hustle. I think that for me, I didn't think I would be good at business because I barely graduated high school. I was terrible at math. and I had really bad money beliefs. So I think for me, coming to Australia, and really I was listening to Gary Vee on YouTube, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I had my second son. I had a home birth for my second child, and my husband was like, when you had that baby, it was like this. And I'm already a strong, like outgoing, determined person. But he was like, this next person, like a new level of you unlocked when you birthed our child. And I decided then, Ken, I was in the shower where all the wisdom comes because there's no children and you're alone. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I not going for what I want to go for? And so I came downstairs and I was like, I'm not going to go back to work. I was working for a corporate contract at the time. And I had done my side hustle styling business for 5 years. So I was really sabotaging, like a 5-year side hustle. Come on, like pull the trigger. So I was really sleeping on my vision. And then I had my son and I decided I'm going to build my coaching business. And it was really through Gary Vee's content of him giving like a loving bitch slap, basically is what I needed, of go out there and do it. And so I listened to everything he said. I started my YouTube. I said to my husband, I wasn't going back to work. We were financially in the worst position possible because we had invested 3-4 years before all our money into personal development to heal from my crazy traumatic American past. So we were 150K in debt. We had our electricity on a payment plan. I remember looking for coins in my car to be like, we got to buy bread. Do you have money? Like, what do you have? Like looking for coins. Like it was wild. It was the wildest, most horrible time financially for my husband and I. And I'm like, I'm not going back to my 90K corporate job. So it was pretty shocking for him to hear me say that. But I just knew at that moment that if I didn't do it now, I was never going to do it. So it's like, it's never a perfect time to start kind of thing. And yeah, it was through Gary's content that first year, I went hard. I went ham on my business. I did content like crazy. I did everything he said in the book, my podcast, in my car. Like I just went for it. And within that first year, the 11 months, we made 160K in the business, which is like unheard of for a Puerto Rican woman from the hood who grew up on food stamps. Like I made that money. It was like, what? It was pretty crazy.
Yeah. Tell me, during that period, did you have self-doubt?
So it's so funny. I couldn't doubt myself. So I think I was at the edge. You know, when you get to those places in your life where you literally have to jump. And I was just like, there was no room for self-doubt because we had to burn all the boats. And I promise you, if I didn't get to that financial stress, I wouldn't have done it. So I didn't have the privilege of self-doubt. I had to make it happen. And I was like, I'm using all my American grit right now. My husband was like, who is this person? I didn't have it. So I think now I get into self-doubt because I'm comfortable. There's more comfort. There's more financial ease. I'm allowed to doubt myself. At that point in time, there was no way you could doubt. It was like survive or die.
Got it. Yeah. So would you I heard this term and I can't remember who said it. It's outwork your doubts or out like work so hard that your self-doubt or your lack of confidence never even has a chance to catch up to you. Is that kind of where you're at that point?
You know what's crazy? I think that there has to be something that drives us because at the time I didn't have a big why or a big vision. So my vision at the time and my big why became, I got to pay like my bills. I need to make sure that I don't have to go back to work. Now I get up like on fire. I go to sleep on fire and I don't have to stress to pay my bills. But I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I think that if you don't have that drive and you don't have that go and get it and outworking, it's because it's not lighting you up enough. And a lot of people mistaken comfort for confidence. And it's not. You're comfortable. You're not confident. You haven't pushed yourself. You haven't stretched. And so if you can get yourself into a place where you're stretching and you're in discomfort, that's the zone that you need to be in.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. I totally understand that. And here's the thing. I've recognized when I look back that there were plateaus that I faced. Yeah. And it's because I set a goal that was at the point I set it, it sounded like 50-50 chance I'm going to hit it. But when I do hit it, that's when I kind of take my foot off the gas. Yeah. And then it's kind of like the spike and then a very slow decline. It's like the frog in the boiling water, right? Yeah. You don't realize until you start cooking, you're like, oh shit. Yeah. And then there's another spike again because it's only when we're in danger that we can activate that part of ourselves. It's like either I'm going to do or die, right? Exactly. And that's what I feel. Okay, tell me about money growing up. Like what did money mean to you? Because Puerto Rican, grew up in the States. Yeah. were in a okay job, but like, what was your attitude toward money that you kind of inherited probably from your parents or the people around you?
100%. So I grew up in foster homes my whole life from 2 years old till I was 16. So my mom was a single mother. She struggled with bipolar and she barely worked. So my mom right now is really taken care of by the government. So like, welfare, food stamps, food donations. Like we'd get the food at Christmas and Thanksgiving. And I was so embarrassed where like I listened to Tony Robbins talk about it and he was like, I was so grateful. And I was like, I was so embarrassed, like take this food away, because I really felt shame that we couldn't afford things or that our food stamps were getting declined. Like that is some shit. Like that's, I was just like, this is the worst. And so I think for me, money, I had this belief that money is only for rich, educated white people. Money is only for, other people, the people that live on the other side of town, and you'll never have access to money and you're not smart enough to make money. That's one that really still, if I'm honest, the belief that messes with me the most. And it's a gift because it comes to me when I'm about to level up, but it's like, you're just a stupid Spanish girl from the hood. Like that's my belief still to this day. And so my relationship with money was really, it's not for me. I don't know what to do to get it. I don't know where my money goes, all of the nasty money stories. And when I came to Australia and I married my husband, who's like an accountant's son, and he loves money, he loves business, and he's really good with it, I outsourced it. As a wife, I'm like, oh, you do that and I'll do this. And halfway into our relationship, he was kind of like, you need to read these books. You need to get into it. You need to start understanding it. And so I really had to rewire my thought process on outsourcing that stuff. I actually did a podcast called Don't Be the Cute Dumb Girl, because that's what I was doing. I was like, I don't know, like, I don't know money, like, I don't know my numbers. And it's like, no, that's not cute. Like, you need to know your numbers. You need to look at the money and be truthful and honest about what's happening so that you can get what you want. So yeah, the money belief stuff was really full on. And like any family, ethnic family handed down, money is evil and people that have money are greedy. And yeah, it was really pretty full on.
Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. And lucky you that you had someone to support you like that, who was able to take care of it until you stepped into that role yourself.
Yeah.
Now, when you set your intention, in the shower, you just had your baby, to listening to Gary Vee, right? Was there anything else besides listening to Gary Vee that kind of gave you the direction? I understand there's motivation, there's a breaking point, but then there's direction, right? You decided to create content. You decided to sell coaching, be a speaker. So what other influences were in there?
Well, I think when I came to Australia, I had a lot of stuff. Like my husband died. I had sexual abuse. I was kidnapped. I had this crazy upbringing, like broke my back. It was a horrible life that I was escaping. And so I thought that flying to Australia across the ocean would leave my stuff in America and I wouldn't have to deal with it. And I tried to restart and everything followed me. My suitcase, everything came with me. So I had to be faced with looking at my life and looking at how I was operating. I had issues with alcohol. I kept attracting terrible men into my life, like these toxic relationships. And so, I have a thing in my book that says, if you don't deal with your shit will deal with you. And like, it was dealing with me. It was definitely dealing with me. And I could see my life wasn't working out. And one day I was like, I'm the common denominator in the hot mess of a life. It's always been me. Like there's been other people, but I've always been in there. So it was the moment of taking responsibility for my life that really changed everything. And I started getting a coach and I started going to seminars. I joined a business coaching program. Like I was in this personal development growth. Like within 12 months, I became a completely different person. So I was in that journey of growth and self-development as I was doing my side hustle styling. And I started to see that no matter what women would wear at my events or, when I would dress them or do their hair, they would still not love themselves. And they would look in the mirror and be like, I'm not good enough. And so I was in my own journey doing the inner work, yet I was sharing the external work. And so I started to weave in the personal development. And I think when I got to that shower point, I was like, the Queen of Confidence isn't about fashion and styling and your body as a pear or a banana, whatever. We're not talking about the external anymore. The real stuff women need is internal confidence. And it was the moment where I was like, I could do this. I need to do this. And I had a big why, because for a long time I was weaving personal development in because I was doing my journey. So it happened from my healing. I got to see what was possible, and then I wanted to put it out for women. So there was a couple things happening at that time.
I love it. Thank you. Now, when it comes to personal development,
yeah,
I remember when a light switch went off for me. It was at a Tony Robbins event, and this is like 15 years ago. It was 2008 to be exact.
Wow.
I'm a little bit older than you might expect. But what I'm Asian,
He looks
so I get
good. You look great, man.
My question is, because you've worked with a lot of people and helped them have their own transformations, do you feel like the impetus has to come from within, or can you, because we all have that coworker, relative, friend who that like they need to work on shit, but it's almost impossible to convince them that they need to, right? So can it come from an external thing, like a friend, or does it have to always come from internal, in your opinion?
I really feel like we can lead them to water and we can shove their head in the water, but it doesn't mean they're going to swallow the water. Like, the leading your horse to water analogy, like can't guarantee that they're going to drink any of that. And I don't think it's a great experience shoving someone's head in the water in itself, because they're not leading themselves. So I genuinely believe, like, it's so sad, but so many of my clients have children that are like addicted to drugs, let's say, or addicted to other things. And as much as they want to help that kid, or they want to help their family, or they love their partner, there's nothing you can do for someone until they're ready. And they're ready looks like maybe they get cancer, maybe someone they love dies, maybe they lose a limb, maybe they get into a terrible accident. It's so dramatic. And I guess my goal with my content and with my work is to go, hey, don't wait for a near-death experience to wake up to your life. But many of us have to. I was one of them. I can't say that I did it the other way. I waited until it was shocking and dramatic to wake up to myself. So yeah, I think we need to be internally driven, and we need to know that there's a problem.
Yeah. Kind of close the loop there in my mind, because, I've seen so many of these people who are critics of personal development and people who are cynical. Yeah. And what a common thing they say is like, oh, there's always the classic story of I nearly died, or I had financial ruin, and then there's the nadir, right? And then there's the uptick afterwards. But what I just kind of understood from what you said is it's because the people who go through that have the most drastic change in the way they operate internally when they realize there's no way out but up. Yeah. And that is why they had it's not that they go back and try to look for some dramatic situation and they over dramatize it a lot of times. It's actually because of that traumatic situation that they had that turnaround. So 100. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that perspective.
We need that. We need the lows.
Why did you choose coaching as your vehicle for a business?
Yeah, well, I think because I was getting coaching and I didn't know anything about meditation, breath work, personal development, spirituality, religion. I wasn't raised with anything. I was kind of raised by wolves in the foster home. So I didn't have faith. I didn't have anything. And so when I came here and I met my first coach through my husband, who gently introduced me, he wasn't shoving it in my face. He gently said, hey, you should look at this if you want. And I was in the military for 10 years. So there's a competitive nature to me. There's I want to win kind of person. You have it as well. Those of us that love business. And so when I got into it, I was kind of like, oh, this is awesome. And I got really into the personal development world and the spirituality and the breath work and optimizing my mind. And so I kind of went really hardcore crazy with it. And I think that, I think it's something that once you get a taste of it, you start to see like, oh, this is exciting. And so, I forgot what I went into this.
No, I asked why you chose coaching.
Yeah, right? Sorry. So,
and I guess it's the environment you're in.
Yeah, I was in that environment. You. Yeah, and also I did therapy. Like I was a kid, so I did therapy for 19 years, and it was typical like sitting across from a psychologist with a pen and paper who was asking you to retell you the story about your traumatic life, and never helped me. It helped me become a good communicator because I was just talking the whole time, but it didn't support me to go future. And I'm actually studying to become a psychotherapist right now. I'm getting my bachelor's degree. And it's so funny because I'm like, oh, this is my problem with therapy. I don't want to just listen to you talk about your problems. Where's the future solution? And so coaching was really about now, future, where therapy, my experience was all about the past and reliving it. And you can't do anything about the past. It's all about how we do it now for the future. So that's why I chose coaching. And I do love to give people, Gary really speaks to me, and his style of like, he's loving and nurturing, but he slaps you every once in a while back into reality. And I think that more people need that, if I'm honest, than the coddling and the nurture. Most of us need a good like, psh, hey, come on, let's go. What are you doing? So I think I loved that. And I decided that I wanted to be that person in the world.
Yeah, yeah. I think Gary's kind of like, a distant uncle to a lot of us
Yeah.
entrepreneurs.
Uncle Gary.
Yeah, yeah, in a sense,
Yeah.
in a sense.
Yeah.
And okay, so we decided on coaching. Now, you said you started putting out content, and the title of this podcast is The Content Capitalist.
Yeah.
How are we capitalizing on that? Now, how long did it take you before you started publishing some stuff and putting yourself out there on social media, podcasts, whatever else you're doing, until that turned around and actually became like inbound business for you and you got cash money in the bank?
Such a good question. You're just so good, Ken. So I oh God, my YouTube is embarrassing back in the day, but I left it there because I know one day it'll be like, oh my gosh, those were your videos. Like I think the minute that I heard the Crushing It, because Crushing It was the book that made me just go for it. And I did everything, which I don't recommend. And I don't think you recommend either. I did everything all at once and I was on my own and I didn't know what I was doing. So I committed to 40 days of YouTube. And I realized really early on that that wasn't going to be the place for me at that moment because I had kids and I was breastfeeding and it was too much with editing on my phone with iMovie. So I was like, that's not going to be the place. But I did 40 days straight of that. I went onto Instagram and that for me became the place where I saw instantly people were interested. So I have this thing and I talk about this a lot. Find your place, the place that is where your people are, not where you like, where your people are and where you're most likely going to get the most traction, where you can go 100%, like hardcore. And I did my podcast, like I said, in my car. So after 3 months, I decided to do a weekly Q&A. So I looked at Marie Forleo back in her day on YouTube when she shared, and she was doing a Q&A Tuesday, and she was every week showing up on video. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a Q&A Tuesday. Like, why rewrite the model? I'm just going to pick a day. And it was religious for me. I had half an hour and I would answer one question. And no one would send me questions, Ken. All of these questions came from, events I had ran in the past, ideas that I thought people had. And I would commit religiously with my child or alone on Q&A Tuesday. I would say 3 months. After 3 months, I was getting people asking me questions and I was sharing about an event that I was going to do because I did the live event model and then selling my coaching at the end. That was how I did my first 160K in my first year. And I had everyone showing up after 3 months. So after 3 months consecutively on Instagram and weekly IGTV and showing up on my podcast, I would say that I started to create some noise and some traction and some, hey, how do I work with you? And, oh, you're amazing. Because I was answering questions that I knew my audience had. So yeah, it took me about 3 months. And then I sold out my first event and my coaching then.
If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah.
Do you remember how much money you brought in on that first event?
Oh my God, like nothing, like $787 or something like that. And I didn't even, the covering of everything was so much more because I hired a videographer because I've always loved video, even from my early broke days when I could not afford a video, I was doing video. So we didn't make any money at that event, but it was my first event. I think my first quarter in business, I made 3,000 or 9,000, something like that. It wasn't anything, barely anything in the business. And I was selling my coaching for $97 for 3 sessions. It was like a package, like shocking, like not even $100 for 3 sessions.
How much were you paying your current coach though at this period that you were selling your coaching?
Gosh, how much was it? I think it was $150 a session. And then I was in a coaching program, which was about $328 a month.
Okay.
So I was in a program and I had a coach.
It got you started though, didn't it?
Oh, it was the best. I went broke. I went into credit card debt and I am probably the only person I've heard tell people, go put it on a credit card. Like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're putting other stuff on credit cards. I put my personal development on the credit card. I literally upgraded my mind. I became the person that could pay off the debt and create more money. What? I was like, I'll do that again tomorrow. Like, it was such a good idea.
Yeah. Totally makes sense. What I love is that, even though it's small and you're sharing these baby steps, so many people, like, they see people commanding prices. Like, for example, people in my coaching program, it starts at $3,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
And people are just like, I can't get there. But then if they see where people come from, then it just, it makes it much more believable and doable, right? Yeah. And we all started with nothing. Everybody started with zero at some point.
Exactly. And that can I say with content, that was my first video. I was in my husband's car, which is like, he's got the muffler going on, the Volkswagen R. And my phone was this way where YouTube didn't like that. The thing was shaking because his car is like fast and shaking. I look like such a hot motherhood mess. Like, the motherhood early days. Think about your wife, like hot mess. I was swollen. I mean, I looked like a hot mess. And I was in my video and I was going, I want to do a podcast. I want to share with you my process of becoming, because you don't get to see Oprah. You see them now and you're like, yeah, okay, you guys are amazing. But who is showing the yucky right now process of becoming? And so my first 40 days of YouTube is literally how I built what I have now. It's not sexy and the editing is terrible, but I wanted to be the person that went, hey, I want to show you. And so I think my credibility with my social media, especially Instagram and my podcast, they were like, we listened to your podcast back in the day when it was your Apple headphones and your hoops were hitting and your e-tag was beeping because you didn't have money and it was going in the podcast. Like, I love those episodes. And so share that. Like, if you're there right now and you're like, I can't afford to pay, to charge $3,000, or I can't pay $3,000, share where you are and like be honest about it. Like, I had to work a job while I was breastfeeding and building my coaching business. And I talked about it because it was real. And I think people right now especially need more real content, because that doesn't have to be the forever, but that's the beginning. And people love to see the beginning.
Absolutely. What's funny is there's even a whole counterculture to what you're describing there, where people try to fake everything to look so perfect and they don't want to show what's real. And there's a couple of Instagram channels which I love. One of them is called Baller Busters, and the other, I can't remember the name, but what he does is the Baller Busters, he looks at like these influencers who are obviously renting shit or photoshopping stuff. And then this other guy who actually looks at these famous fitness influencers who have brand deals with Nike and Adidas and stuff. And then he goes and sees how much weird shit they're doing to modify their bodies on Photoshop, which is not even real. Wow. Everybody at some level is not going to believe you. But when they see the backstory and your clumsy mistake, amateur shit, then you become a believable person. Yeah. And when you're willing to expose the real side of you, then it counteracts all the fakeness that's out there. And,
100%.
And then people just trust you more, right?
100%. 100%.
I'd like, if you're okay with this, for you to break down, what does the link look like today between when you think of an idea to create, produce content, put it online, and then the mumbo jumbo that happens in between to actually someone becoming a client, putting money down to work with you? Yeah. Could you kind of run 100%. Us through that process?
So so how do we do it now? I got someone on my team recently who is incredible. And I hate to say I only, because it's not always true, but I usually try to hire people within my program. So obviously I support women to live a better life. I'm a life coach. I help them with self-confidence, and it's a group community program. I have very rare one-on-one clients because I really believe in community work. And so these women will come to our retreats, or they'll join our programs. And because it's not a business program, they're everyday people, right? They don't run businesses. So many times when we go to hire people, I pull from the pool of our women because they've cried, they've watched the videos, they've done the work, they've experienced what I experienced. Who better to work in our company and support our audience or support our clients than women who have done it? So I recently hired Nina. She's come on board and worked with us. And so our plan and our goal is every year we kind of map out what we're doing for the year, like our retreats or our big kind of stuff that's happening. And then we take 6 months and we sit with our team and we go, when is this stuff happening? And then when do we need to start talking about it? So obviously we have a retreat in September or November. November's a massive month for us. We do this thing called Next Level November. So Next Level November needs to be talked about and planned by August, September, so that come November, it's popping and everything is happening. So what we do is we will look at what we're promoting and what we're talking about, what the theme and the flavor is, and we kind of reverse engineer what podcasts need to be talked about. My podcast is really my main content creation point because I sit here and I record my podcast and I have a camera over here. Then I've got this camera and then I've got my audio, and everything gets chopped up, side angled, all of that. And so our podcast is really a main part. And then when we do live events, which I love live events, and I think a lot of people don't do after COVID, but we do a lot of them. So live events, we video and we produce. And then I'll sit with Nina and just kind of look at, what is some of the content that's going to lead them to take the action that we want to create. So we're really kind of strategic with what we're doing each month and where we're going, so that we're not doing last minute, reels on the toilet like a lot of us do. Like while you're like, oh my God, I forgot to post today. Like we can't be doing that at this level because it's very stressful. And we don't post just to like grow? Because I think a lot of people are like, well, if I post every day, I'm going to get views, I'm going to get followers. And it's like, what's the intention behind it? So a very, I guess, strategic thing, for example, we're recording this right now. I would take this, that we would chop it up. We would use the video, and we would take what it says, the description, make it into captions, send it to our email list. We've got all these videos inside a Google Drive that's like, these are for sisterhood program. These are for the retreat. So then whenever we want to promote things, we recycle as well, as much as we can, because I have too much content. That's my problem. And so it's like, what are we doing with all of this? And then we formulate which platform. So we are on LinkedIn. I like to swear quite a bit. And so we know that LinkedIn doesn't like that. So, not even Gary swears on LinkedIn. So I have to be more strategic with what's our plan on LinkedIn and what are we trying to do? I'm not trying to dominate LinkedIn, but I want to have a good heartbeat there. Okay, what's our plan with TikTok? What are we trying to do? And I think for me, I always ask why we're doing what we're doing. And I can't stand TikTok, if I'm honest, because I hate being a part of the dopamine machine. I want to speak to you for a longer time, and I want you to take some action. So instead of fighting what is, we put content there, but we know where our main bases are and where the places that we're going to put more energy strategically into. And TikTok and LinkedIn aren't those places, let's say.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I had a guest on here earlier. His name is George Bryant, and he gets, paid six figures easily just for a consulting gig around marketing, right? And he told me this story, and this might be interesting for you, where he was hired by an international corporation, several billion-dollar, revenue type of business, and to come and help with their social media situation. And they were struggling because they were doing Facebook campaigns, YouTube, Instagram, everything. And they were struggling to really find their audience. So they fly him in there. He's got the six-figure contract to solve this problem for them, right? And then he asks the CEO, who's also the face of the company, he says, when you wake up in the morning, what's the first app you look at? And he goes, Instagram. And he goes, okay, so what you're going to do is for the next 18 months, with zero exception, you'll not put out content anywhere else except for that one, because that's the one you connect with, and that's the one your audience is going to see you feel the most natural on. They're just like, but, and they had already hired these teams for everything else. And he goes, no. He goes, if you break this contract, then there's actually a penalty fee because, that's in my contract. And they're just like, damn. And within 3 months, they had actually like tripled their, organic inbound sales because they just focused on one. And after 18 months, then they were able to just leverage that experience and then build one at a time. And I think, like you said earlier, like I'd say it was a tactical mistake that you said, like to do everything all at once.
Yeah.
But I think at that time in your life, you had to do. It was an emotional win because it was just like, I'm jumping off the cliff and I'm going to figure this out, right? But tactically, a lot of people think that the thinner they spread themselves, the better they're going to do. And it's just not true.
Yeah, so true. You know what? It's so crazy too, because Ken, I wouldn't have started. I remember, I was going to say Taki. I remember Gary said, start a podcast on Anchor. That's what he said. Because he's very like, people want to complain and say why they can't. And he's like, here's how you can. Here's how easy. And so he threw this app, Anchor, which now Spotify has purchased and taken. And it was the easiest way in the universe to start a podcast. Now, is it the best? No, it was not the best. But I was like, I need to start. And it's so funny. He recently came to Melbourne and I got to talk to him and hug him and say thank you to Gary. And it was amazing. And I remember when he was like, just do the podcast on Anchor. And I did the podcast on Anchor. And literally within 8 months, the podcast was number 6 in Australia for mental health.
Wow.
And I didn't know. I had no idea. So talk about creating content and also not tracking your analytics, not looking at what's doing well. Like now we're so obsessed, especially young people are like, how many views did I get 24/7 checking your followers? It's like, I was just, I was just doing it because I wanted to share a message. And I think that if anyone here is listening about content, like you shouldn't be like, oh, I have to do content, rolling your eyes. Like you already lost if that's your view, because you're doing it because you want to share a message that the people who need you need to hear. So it's like, that was the driving force. It was never giving a shit about followers or how many, whatever. And obviously we want to grow, but that was really big for me to see. And that's when I started taking my podcast seriously. I'm like, shit, people are listening. I better take this seriously. And I'm telling you, my audio was horrible, but the fire that I was giving to the person that was listening, I mean, to this day, everyone's like, can you go back to car podcasting? And the audio is shocking, so I will not. But anyway,
every now and then you could pop a surprise one in there. Hey guys, we're back in,
Back in the
whatever
car.
that was, 2015,
Yeah. E-tags going
It's
off.
the time machine.
Yeah.
Okay, look, what I'd like to know is, you help a lot of women have these transformations and, to just build them up to believe in themselves. What are the biggest obstacles you're seeing that people come to you with that you're able to turn around? Like name like the top 3 things that either it's mental, logistical, whatever that is.
Yeah. I think the top 3 things is the mindset stuff for sure. And I think a lot of people roll their eyes at mindset, and we really underestimate how powerful it really is, and how every single successful person, when you trace back their success, their mindset is right. And so it's a biggest area where women come to me and their self-talk, and even men, well, my husband says to me all the time, men also lack confidence and we've got issues. So this is really for anyone listening. When you think about how you think, when you pay attention to the internal soundtrack of your mind and what's going on, and a lot of the things that we work on straight away, the first thing that I tackle with them is really understanding what's going on up there. So it's like imagining you open your brain and you just put eyes on it and you watch and you're like, whoa, what is happening? What am I telling myself? When I'm around those people, that gets spiked. When I'm doing this, that doesn't go well. So you just start to watch and pay attention to your mind and the way that you think. And so one of the top things that we do is really start inquiring. So we're not changing anything. We're just asking deeper questions and getting curious with what we tell ourselves. Is it true that you suck on video? Is that really true? And, investigate, ask deeper questions around that. Start to prove yourself wrong. And I think when you start to do that, our women instantly, within 18 days of joining our program, they're like, holy crap, my whole world's just shifted because I realized that what I was telling myself wasn't actually true. So then if that's not true, oh my gosh. And you kind of see the opportunity of all the things that you lied to yourself about, basically, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is obviously self-confidence. And I have a definition that a lot of people don't talk about, and I think it's the most important definition. When I was researching for the book, I've been researching confidence for over 10 years, thousands of women from over 60 countries. And what I saw was that every time we look at confidence, it's looked at like competence, or it's looked at as, something that you have or you don't have. And the definition I found is a Latin word, and it's called fidere, and it means to trust yourself. So confidence, and in Spanish, confianza, means trust. And so what if you could work on trusting yourself more and building that self-trust? That's self-confidence. If you can trust yourself, if what you say you do, and you keep those little small trust things to yourself, you will build your self-confidence. And so that's probably the second thing, is trusting yourself and learning how to keep your word. And then I would say the third one is learning how to not give a fuck what people think about you. And we call it FWOT, forget what others think, which I taught my 8-year-old so he doesn't swear, or fuck what others think. And it's very much aligned with Gary, because I think that was the biggest thing stopping me from showing up online and making content, was like, I'm too loud, or I do this, or I say a lot, or I speak really fast, or whatever it is. And I think when we learn how to let go of the opinion of others and let people be wrong about us, because people will be wrong about me. They're going to get me wrong. They're going to judge me. They don't know me. And it's like, am I okay with people thinking something about me, even though they're wrong? Yes, I'm okay with that. All right, cool. Let's keep going. And so we're always going to care what people think, but allowing their opinion to stop you from showing up, from making money, from making impact, from influencing people, that's not good. So that's probably the top 3 things that we work on with our kind of women and our clients.
On that third point that you said about learning to stop caring or giving a fuck about what other people think about you, how do you do that?
I think that it's a lot of work, but one of the things that you could do, like if you wanted to right now figure out right now, what is it costing you? What is it costing you personally to allow people's opinions to stop you? So you might say, I don't wear what I want to wear. I don't say what I want to say. I'm not speaking my voice. I don't ask questions. I don't get to say no. So I say yes, which sacrifices many things for me. I don't get to put myself out there. It's costing me financial freedom. It's costing me my joy and my purpose. It's costing me intimacy. I mean, if you look on the list of what it's costing you, it's fucking expensive to give a shit what people think. You look at that list and you're like, whoa, this is like my whole life. Then the other side of the list is, what is it costing the people that you came here to serve? What is it costing me? So if I don't show up because I care so much what people think about me, my clients don't get a podcast of real talk. My clients don't get a video in the morning of me going, hey, believe in yourself. You know, I don't get to impact the women. I don't get to help women leave domestically violent relationships. I don't get to, all the impact I've had doesn't get to happen. And I'm not saying they won't find someone else, but they might find someone who's not as great or doesn't care as much. And so it costs you so much to play small, and it costs you so much to care what people think about you. And you'll never, ever, ever going to get to change someone's mind. So this is a big point that I hope that you will take from this. I don't know who I am. And you don't know who you are, Ken. And no one knows who they are. And I say this respectfully, I don't know who I am because I am becoming someone every single day. In 6 months' time, I won't be who I am today. Who I was 3 months ago is definitely not who I am today. So if I don't know who I am, but I know who I'm not, and I'm constantly evolving, growing, and expanding who I want to become, how does someone else's opinion about me hurt my feelings? How the hell do they know who I am? How can I care what they think about who they think I am when I don't even know who I am? And all I'm doing is discovering who I'm not and stepping into a greater version of myself. Oh, it's like it takes a weight off. Like you could think whatever you want about who you think I am because that's not who I am. So it's like freedom. Then you can wear crazy stuff. Then you can say whatever you want to say. Then you can, I speak to rooms full of women. I get on stage. I say crazy shit, Ken, that people are like, oh my God, I can't believe she said that. I don't give a damn. And it's so freeing for me because I'm not trapped in your box of who you think I should be or what you think I should say so that you feel happy. Because at the end of the day, no one's going to be happy with who I am. I'll have to keep twisting and turning myself. My mother will never be proud of me. My father will never want me to do So I just go release the expectation. Am I happy? Am I good with myself? That's the only person that matters.
That's so good. Now we got to wrap this up in a couple minutes, but what's amazing to me is, like I'm picking up, there was like the things that helped you to accomplish what you did. And I know you're going to take this so much further, but up until now, there was a shitload of confidence you had to build in yourself. There was a traumatic situation or like a low point. But then there was also the strategy and the technology. Now strategy, you decide to go and create a whole bunch of content everywhere, and then you dialed it into what's actually working, right? And the technology really has to do with social media and what's available to us. And what blows my mind is that I think you could have had everything else right, but if this version of you existed 50 years earlier, without that technology bit, it would have been very difficult to scale to what you have in the time period that you did. Would you agree with that?
100%, 1,000,000%. Honestly, I say if it wasn't for Instagram, and now obviously we've moved them to our email list, but we made $1 million on Instagram, Ken. Just Instagram. Like, wild. Like, reels have made $14,000. I know which reel made $14,000. I know which post made $5,000. Like, I can tell you, oh, that hand-raising post did this, and that reel did that. And it's like, it's not because I showed up once, right? It's been a long-term thing, but literally to show up on social media and be able to share a message and invite people to take an action to change their lives, and you get paid dollars for it. And by the way, I'm not one of the people that charges $3,000 a month. So I know you said you do. My program's like $217 a month. It's like $217.
Guys, we're gonna put links down below so you could get hooked up with Erika, which I really, really recommend. And look, and you know what blows my mind is some people come to me because we do like coaching and like services blended together.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, hey, I feel like I'm so late to the game. So and so has 1 million followers. So and so is doing this and that. And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? Imagine you're born 50 years ago and you had access. Like back then, you'd have to get a major book label to sign you, right? And then you'd have to get on newspapers, radio, TV. Like, how difficult was it? And how many gatekeepers did you have to go through? And how many connections did you need to reach this audience? Now, all you need is an impactful message and a confident you, which Erika is going to fix you up on if you don't have part 2 in there. But like you and a cell phone. I know. That's all you fucking need. And you complain that you're late to the game. It's like, no. Like if you think that the level of reach that one person has exploded in the last 10 years, like in 10 years from now, it's going to be compounding on what we have today. it's not settling down. It's about to accelerate like crazy.
It's
and
100%. And what you do is so important. It's so important, Ken, because when we all have these lulls where we're like, something's not working. What's happening? If you think about every person, how do they get people to do anything? They make a video, they share some content, they talk about a problem or a desire or something that their client wants, and they become so good and clients go, whoa, you're the one that, I wanted to own confidence. And I'm not saying this with a big head, but like in Australia, people know, like confidence, queen of confidence. They know, they see me like, Erika, confidence. Do I do more than that? Of course I do. But I wanted to be strategic and go, I'm going to be the queen of confidence. This is my space. This is what I'm going to own. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to go deeper than anyone else on it. And I have. And so I have the nuances from years of content and years of figuring this message out, that now it's like you said, like it's so wild to think that content is how people will know you're the one for me. And let me preface, video. Stop hiding behind quotes and bullshit. Put a video, talk with your mouth, move your head. Even if you're bad at video, let people see that, because when people get to see and hear you, I'm always looking for video. If I don't see video, I'm like, oh, that's something wrong there, because I can't hear you. I can't see you. Who are you? What do you think? And so it's such a beautiful opportunity that we have right now. And I love what you do. I think you're incredible, Ken. And I think more of us need to do and work with people like you, because this content and this message that we have, it's such a beautiful time for us to be able to get it out.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much.
You're the boss.
I've got to wrap this up. But last thing, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, maybe pick up this book, which you definitely should, or whatever the first step is for you to, give them some gift or something to get them into your world, where's the best place for people to go?
Yes. So the best place is thequeenofconfidence.com or at the Queen of Confidence on Instagram. And I also love when people, I don't love to sign anybody up to anything. I like to give them a lot of content because I want them to know who I am, to hear me, to see me, to feel me, because I might not be someone's flavor, and I love that. Okay. So the Confidence Chronicles podcast is where I drop everything, 15-minute loving bitch slaps to remind you to step into your most confident self. You can find it there. So yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. And here's my final question.
Yeah.
I have looked at this cover photo so many times, and I'm asking myself, what is going on in her mind so that she could like shoot lasers through her eyes at the same time, look really hot and confident, like everything all at once. Like tell me about this photo a little bit.
Gosh, that photo shoot was so much fun. We had a lot of good music on. I think music is everything. I used to be a model, so I used to be able to do the model face, and now I don't know. I just smile in photos now, but back in the day, I was like a bikini music video pitbull reggaeton model in Miami when I lived there, and I think I had to pull up the Erika Yvette.
Wait, are you in any of Pitbull's like music videos?
Yeah, old stuff. Yes. Old.
I'm gonna go look that up now.
You gotta Google Erika Yvette, and you'll see all the all the old stuff. It's so crazy. Yeah, I've lived many lives, Ken. I know.
It just keeps peeling back like an onion. It is so good. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for that. It was really entertaining, but not only entertaining, this was inspirational. Somebody who came from Puerto Rico, from the US to Australia, built a business on confidence, on getting yourself out there and now helping. I'd say what would you say the number is for how many people have you affected in some way through your coaching or education?
Gosh, well, the podcast has like 2.7 million downloads in 218 countries now. So it's like, I would say now it's millions, which actually makes me want to cry.
Millions. Oh, in the millions. The Queen of Confidence impacting millions. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
By the way, guys, if you listened to this all the way to the end, then there was something about this that spoke to you, that you loved. Click the links down below. Check out Erika on her Instagram, on YouTube, on her podcast. We're going to put all the links down there, and also make sure that you give this as many stars as it deserves, which is definitely 5. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Erika, thank you so much for being on the show.